It begins with something most people overlook: a handful of salt and a bit of sand. Ordinary, simple, almost invisible in their familiarity. Yet within these two humble elements lies a spiritual secret that most eyes have passed over, unaware that they hold one of the oldest codes of divine creation. In the natural world, they are common. But in the unseen world, they are instruments, carriers of memory, vibration, and light. For generations, salt and sand have served humanity's daily needs, preserving food, strengthening foundations, cleansing impurities. But beneath these visible uses, the Creator has hidden mysteries that only the spiritually awake can perceive. The universe is built upon correspondences, as above, so below, as within, so without. Salt and sand mirror this law. One represents the preservation of the spirit, the other, the record of the earth. When faith unites them, they form a sacred covenant between heaven and soil, a declaration that no shadow can cross the line drawn by divine authority. Most people pray for protection yet overlook the sacred tools that God Himself placed under their feet and on their tables. The ancients understood this. Prophets, priests, and sages across civilizations knew that every material in creation vibrates with intention. Salt was never just seasoning, it was a spiritual contract, a symbol of covenant, purity, and preservation. When mixed with prayer, it becomes the voice of endurance, saying, "What God has blessed cannot decay." Sand, on the other hand, carries a silent testimony. Every grain remembers. Every footstep upon it leaves an imprint not just in form but in energy. The sand of the earth hears and bears witness, to joy, to sorrow, to the words spoken into the air. That is why when God promised Abraham descendants as numerous as the grains of sand, He was not using poetry, He was revealing a secret, that sand itself is a living witness of divine multiplication. The ground beneath your feet holds the memory of promises, oaths, and even the spiritual battles fought in your lineage. When salt and sand come together in faith, the seen and unseen realms converge. Heaven meets earth. It is no longer just an act, it becomes a prophetic declaration. The salt speaks purity, and the sand answers with testimony. Together, they form an energetic wall that says, "Here, darkness stops." It's not about superstition, it's about understanding divine design. God often hides His greatest powers in simplicity, the same simplicity that confuses the proud and enlightens the humble. When you mix salt and sand with spiritual intent, a shift occurs in the unseen world. Favor begins to locate you, because energy recognizes alignment. Darkness loses its grip, because purity reclaims space. And suddenly, peace returns to the atmosphere. You are not merely handling matter, you are activating a law, the law of resonance between creation and creator. Salt and sand, when blessed and spoken over, become more than elements. They become witnesses. They remember your words, amplify your faith, and release vibrations that repel corruption and attract divine order. When your hand holds them, heaven listens. When your voice declares over them, the earth responds. For the humble handful that most ignore carries the authority to draw a boundary no evil can cross. Salt has always carried within it the echo of divine permanence. It does not spoil, it does not rot, and it never loses its essence. It endures, a mirror of the faithfulness of God. In ancient times, salt was not only currency but covenant. When two people shared salt, it meant their agreement was sealed by something incorruptible. To betray that covenant was to invite decay into one's soul. That is why Scripture refers to the covenant of salt. It was God's way of saying, "My promise cannot be corrupted." When you take salt into your hands today, you are holding a symbol that has crossed ages and civilizations. Across the Old Testament and even in Eastern spiritual traditions, salt is the mark of purification, of integrity, of enduring truth. The Japanese Shinto sprinkle it before temples to repel impurity, the Tibetan monks use it to absorb stagnant energy, the priests of Israel offered it with every sacrifice. Why? Because salt holds frequency, the frequency of preservation, the vibration of divine consistency. When you bless salt and declare God's word over it, you awaken its original design. It becomes a vessel that carries the authority of light. You are not invoking superstition, you are activating remembrance. For the same salt that seasons your food can also season your destiny, preserving what is divine, protecting what is pure, and sealing what is sacred. Every grain carries a whisper in the spirit: what is blessed cannot be taken away. When you scatter blessed salt in your home, you are not decorating your floor, you are enforcing spiritual law. You are saying to the unseen, here, no decay is permitted. No corruption shall dwell. Darkness feeds on disorder, salt restores divine order. It absorbs negativity, breaks hidden contamination, and restores harmony where chaos has reigned. But remember, the power is not in the mineral, it is in the word spoken over it. The vibration of your faith activates the vibration of creation. When the prophet Elisha healed the poisoned waters of Jericho with a handful of salt, he demonstrated this divine alchemy. It was not the salt itself that healed, it was the spoken decree through the salt that carried the energy of restoration. Likewise, when you use salt in faith, you are not performing an act of magic, you are partnering with divine intelligence. You are saying, let purity confront corruption. Let preservation swallow decay. Every time you pray with salt, remember what it symbolizes: covenant, faithfulness, and incorruptible stability. Even if your environment feels hostile or your circumstances unstable, hold salt in your palm and remind yourself, as salt never changes, so must your faith remain constant. Let it teach you endurance. Let it remind you that spiritual strength is not measured by what you escape from, but by what you preserve within. Because when you declare, my life is under the covenant of salt, heaven and earth bear witness. Angels respond to such decrees. Darkness retreats. Your home becomes a sanctuary where decay cannot enter, where confusion dissolves, where everything aligned with divine order is preserved. The covenant of salt is not ancient superstition, it is timeless truth. It is a mirror of divine stability, a sign that what God began in you cannot be undone by corruption. And then there is the sand, silent, ancient, infinite. Most people see it as dust beneath their feet, but in the language of spirit, sand is not lifeless. It is alive with memory. Every grain carries the imprint of what has touched it: footsteps, tears, prayers, and blood. It records without judgment and testifies without words. That is why the ground itself can bear witness before heaven. When your feet touch the sand, you are not merely walking, you are communicating with a living record of everything that has transpired upon the earth. In Scripture, God compared Abraham's descendants to the sand by the sea. But this was no poetic exaggeration, it was a revelation of continuity, of divine multiplication. The message was simple yet profound: even the smallest particle of creation participates in covenant. The sand you step on hears your words, carries your energy, and holds your story. When defilement enters the land through curses, violence, or broken promises, the sand absorbs it. Likewise, when you bless the ground with faith, it records that blessing and reproduces it across generations. This is why the spiritual use of sand is not superstition, it is restoration. The ground remembers, but you have the authority to rewrite what it remembers. When you gather a handful of sand with prayer and mix it with salt, you are not just combining two elements. You are reconnecting heaven and earth. You are saying, let divine purity cleanse earthly memory. Let my territory be redeemed. Many people wonder why certain homes carry heavy atmospheres, as if sorrow, argument, or misfortune keeps revisiting the same space. It is because the ground beneath them is imprinted with unresolved energy. Words have roots, and the earth holds them. But when sanctified sand enters that environment, it resets the vibration. It uproots the residue of chaos and invites harmony to dwell again. When you anoint sand and declare over it, you are activating your authority as a custodian of the earth. Remember, God gave mankind dominion not just over the heavens but over the soil itself. To speak over sand is to awaken the covenant of territory, the same covenant that makes the earth yield its fruit and reject its curses. As you speak life into the sand, it becomes a contact point for miracles, a bridge between what you decree and what manifests. And here lies one of the deepest secrets: sand moves, but it never disappears. The wind may scatter it, but its essence remains. This teaches you something sacred, that your blessings may shift location, but they cannot be erased. Your destiny may be delayed, but it cannot vanish. The same way sand travels through the wind, your words spoken in faith travel through spirit. They reach places your body cannot go, your workplace, your hometown, even the homes of those who speak against you. So when you pray over sand, you are not performing a mere act, you are sending a divine broadcast into the earth. You are saying, wherever my name is mentioned, let the ground reject evil and honor covenant. Wherever my footsteps go, let blessings multiply. When sand and salt are joined together, heaven hears purity and the earth answers with remembrance. Together they build a wall of light around your life, unseen but unbreakable. Before you begin the sacred act of mixing, understand this truth: the power is not in the materials, but in the consciousness behind them. The salt and sand do not act on their own, they respond to faith, obedience, and divine intention. Every element in creation vibrates with awareness, waiting for a word, a command, a frequency that matches heaven's sound. When your words align with that divine vibration, the universe bends to carry them out. Find a quiet place, where silence feels alive. Prepare a clean bowl or vessel and still your mind. Breathe deeply until the noise of worry fades. The spiritual realm listens not to panic, but to peace. Now, take a small amount of salt and a handful of clean sand, preferably from your home or a place that feels connected to your spirit. Avoid gathering from spaces filled with conflict or confusion, for energy lingers in matter. Hold both elements in your hands and whisper, "Lord, I return what you created back to you for holy use." As you speak, imagine light descending into your palms, a soft, radiant glow weaving through every grain. You are not just holding minerals, you are holding memory, purity, and testimony. You are awakening them to divine service. Begin to mix the salt and sand slowly in a clockwise motion. This is the motion of divine order, the rhythm of creation itself. The planets orbit clockwise, energy spirals clockwise, time unfolds clockwise. You are aligning your act with the sacred geometry of heaven. As you stir, speak deliberately, "Father, as I unite these elements, I unite heaven and earth over my destiny. Let favor locate me. Let evil lose its grip. Wherever this mixture touches, let your power reign." Do not rush. Feel the vibration of your words move through the materials. Feel their frequency rise. See the mixture glowing brighter with every declaration. This is where the transformation begins, not in the physical act, but in the vibration of faith flowing through you. You are transferring divine codes into creation. When the mixing feels complete, lift your hand and say once more, "This land is blessed. This home is covered. No evil shall enter, and no blessing shall depart." These are not just words, they are decrees that stamp your environment with divine law. Then divide the mixture into small portions. Place one near your main entrance as a silent guard. Place another under your bed or beside where you rest, to shield your dreams. You may sprinkle a little at the corners of your home, or near windows, where unseen energies often enter. As you do, maintain reverence. You are not performing a ritual for show, you are establishing boundaries in the spirit. Each placement becomes a spiritual sentry, a watchtower of light declaring, "This space belongs to God." If you live high above ground or in a shared building, keep the mixture sealed in a clean jar and place it near your door or prayer space. Each time you pray, stretch your hand toward it and affirm, "This house is sealed in divine order. No shadow may dwell here." Never let anyone move or touch it without your knowing. It is not decoration, but covenant. This act, done once with full faith, is enough. The divine does not require repetition, it requires belief. When obedience meets alignment, heaven responds instantly. From that moment on, the atmosphere around you begins to shift. What was heavy grows light, what was chaotic finds stillness, and what was hidden in darkness starts to dissolve. Now that the salt and sand are joined, the next step is activation, the moment when your faith gives them a voice in the unseen. What was once still now begins to breathe, for your intention calls it to life. Stand before the place where the mixture rests. The air may feel charged, almost alive, as if the very walls are listening. That is because they are. Creation always listens to faith. Raise your right hand, the hand of covenant and declaration, and begin to speak with authority. Father, I thank you for this covenant of salt and sand. Let every hidden snare be exposed. Let every curse, spell, or negative word return to its sender. Wherever my name has been buried, let the earth release it. Wherever evil has been planted, let it dry up and die. Speak these words boldly. Not from fear, but from dominion. The spiritual world responds not to panic, but to certainty. As you decree, imagine your words like waves of light spreading through the ground beneath your feet, burning away the shadows, restoring what was stolen. You can perform this activation once, or revisit it whenever you sense resistance in the atmosphere. Every time you speak, the mixture reawakens. It becomes a witness that your voice still carries authority. When you walk past it, touch the bowl or simply raise your hand toward it and whisper, "The Lord is my defender." Every arrow returns to its sender. You do not need drama, you need direction. The spiritual realm recognizes clarity more than noise. The mixture now stands as a covenantal mirror. It reflects your faith outward and sends confusion back to the darkness that launched it. The sand carries the memory of your decrees, and the salt seals them with permanence. Together, they resist infiltration. If someone speaks against you, the sand testifies. If someone plots secretly, the salt neutralizes. Evil collapses under the weight of light, for no curse can stand against a vessel who understands divine law. You have drawn a line in the spirit, your territory now has identity. Heaven recognizes it as protected ground. From this point, command restoration. Say aloud, every opportunity buried by envy, rise again. Every blessing delayed by darkness, accelerate now. Every door shut by deception, open under divine order. Your words do not vanish, they travel through vibration, reshaping what exists in the unseen. Speak until peace replaces tension. Speak until you feel the release. This act is not about ritual, it is about remembrance. You are reminding the universe who its creator is. You are aligning yourself with divine symmetry, the same rhythm that keeps oceans within boundaries and stars in orbit. When you activate faith through word and action, heaven, earth, and spirit move as one. And from that unity, something shifts. Invisible doors open. Old patterns collapse. The things that once fought you begin to fall apart on their own. Even those who rise against you find themselves ensnared by their own traps. It is not revenge, it is divine equilibrium restoring order. When you finish your declarations, close your eyes and give thanks. Whisper, "It is done. My home is sealed, my destiny secured, my peace restored." Feel gratitude expanding through your chest. That feeling itself is power, it is the final key that locks the covenant. The salt and sand stand now as silent guardians, charged with the memory of your faith. From this moment onward, the mixture becomes more than a symbol, it becomes a living witness of divine law. The salt speaks purity, the sand records authority. Together, they enforce boundaries that darkness cannot trespass. You have not created a charm, you have awakened a covenant. What you have done in faith reverberates through the fabric of your environment. Every corner of your home, every doorway and window that the mixture guards, now resonates with spiritual order. The vibration of chaos is silenced, and the resonance of peace takes its place. Evil may attempt to approach, but it will find no entry. The ground itself now rejects defilement. This is the mystery of divine alignment, that even matter responds to the frequency of holiness. Many who have practiced this act with understanding have testified of profound change. Night terrors that once plagued them vanished. Strange noises ceased. The heavy atmosphere in their homes lifted as though a window had opened in the invisible realm. Business doors began to reopen, favor that had been delayed began to accelerate. These are not coincidences, they are echoes of divine partnership. For faith is not wishful thinking, it is spiritual technology. When you place salt and sand in obedience, you are not manipulating energy, you are restoring balance. You are reminding creation of its original harmony with the divine order. Everything in the universe seeks alignment with the Creator's vibration. When faith speaks, the law of resonance answers. But let this truth be written in your heart: this act is sacred, not vengeful. You are not using the covenant to harm another soul. The back-to-sender effect is not witchcraft, it is divine justice operating through equilibrium. Darkness collapses under its own weight when confronted by light. You do not return evil with hatred, you stand still and let the law of purity do its work. If your intention is revenge, the mixture loses its virtue. Faith cannot flow through bitterness. The covenant of salt and sand demands a clean heart. It is an altar of peace, not war. You are invoking protection, not punishment. You are establishing divine justice, not human pride. Before activation, always cleanse your spirit with prayer or worship. Let your environment be filled with gratitude and humility. This is not performance, it is preparation. Purity amplifies power. Worship shifts your vibration to match heaven's frequency. When the atmosphere is clean, the words you speak become commands, not pleas. And remember, never boast about what you have done. What is holy must be hidden. Do not reveal where you placed the mixture or how you prayed. The moment you expose a sacred act to ridicule, it weakens the energy of reverence around it. This mystery functions best in silence and obedience. Let your results testify, let your peace speak louder than any explanation. Even if others mock or misunderstand, do not defend yourself. The laws of spirit do not need argument, they reveal themselves through manifestation. Those who disrespect what is sacred invite correction from the system of divine justice itself. Your role is not to prove, but to remain aligned. For the salt and sand do not answer to men, they answer to God's law written into creation. When that law is honored, everything around you becomes luminous again. You begin to notice subtle shifts, calmer mornings, brighter dreams, doors opening with ease. That is the sign that your covenant has taken root in the unseen. There will come a time when the covenant feels complete, when the air around your home is calm, when peace replaces the old pressure, when your spirit senses closure. In that moment, discernment must guide your next step. You are not meant to keep the mixture forever, every covenant has its season. Just as fresh manna came daily in the wilderness, spiritual tools must also be renewed in rhythm with divine timing. When that season comes, do not discard the mixture carelessly. Treat it with the same reverence with which you created it. The energy you spoke into it is sacred, it must return to the earth in peace. Take the mixture gently, and as you hold it, whisper gratitude: Father, thank you for the season of protection and favor this covenant has brought. I now release it back to creation with honor. You may bury it in the soil of your garden or pour it into clean, flowing water, a river, a stream, or even a bowl of water that you later return to the earth. Never throw it into the trash or mix it with impurity. This is not disposal, it is completion. You are closing a spiritual circuit, sealing an energetic exchange between heaven and earth. Afterward, if you sense a new chapter unfolding, a change of home, job, relationship, or inner season, you may create a new mixture as a symbol of renewed covenant. But only if you feel led by spirit, not by fear or routine. Repetition without revelation drains energy. Revelation with obedience multiplies it. Each time you do this, your alignment deepens. You become more attuned to the flow of divine rhythm, when to act, when to wait, when to speak, when to be silent. Those who walk with discernment always stay ahead of their enemies, because discernment itself is the highest form of protection. From this moment forward, every part of your life begins to resonate differently. The old frequencies of anxiety or stagnation start to dissolve, and a subtle stillness begins to govern your atmosphere. You may feel lighter, as though a burden has been lifted. You may even notice your sleep improving, or sudden opportunities emerging that once seemed impossible. Do not dismiss these shifts as chance. They are signs of divine alignment. When you obey spiritual instruction with humility, the unseen world honors it. The covenant of salt and sand does not only protect, it restores, it recalibrates, it reintroduces divine order where there was once confusion. And as this happens, always remember, gratitude is the highest maintenance of miracles. The more you thank God for what He has done, the longer your peace endures. The moment pride enters, the light withdraws. Keep your heart clean. Keep your words kind. Keep your spirit open. This act has changed many lives, not because of superstition, but because of alignment. They understood that spiritual warfare is not loud, it is orderly. It is not about shouting at darkness but standing in light so strong that darkness loses relevance. That is what this teaching awakens in you: authority through stillness, dominion through purity, power through peace. The salt and sand are not magical charms, they are physical metaphors of divine principles. Purity preserves, memory witnesses. Together, they remind creation of who you are, a child of covenant, entrusted with dominion, anchored in divine law. And wherever you walk after this act, the ground itself will testify, this one belongs to God. Now that you have understood the mystery, it is time to awaken your spiritual voice. Stand before the place where your covenant mixture rests, near your door, your prayer space, or wherever you chose as sacred ground. Lift your hands and let the atmosphere become still. Feel the air listening, because creation always listens to faith spoken with intention. Say slowly and deliberately, "Father, you are the maker of the earth and all that is within it. You command the seas and count every grain of sand. Today, I stand upon your word and declare, every curse is broken, every snare is destroyed, every evil altar that carries my name collapses by divine power." Pause. Breathe. Feel those words ripple through the unseen. Each syllable you speak becomes a vibration in the ether, a light pattern engraved into creation's fabric. Continue. Let the salt purify my life, and let the sand establish my ground. Let my home become a sanctuary of your presence. Wherever my name is mentioned, let the ground reject evil. Wherever my footsteps go, let blessings follow. Wherever my voice reaches, let favor answer. As you pray, visualize radiant energy expanding outward, from your hands, into the bowl, through your home, across the land. Light moves through walls, through floors, through boundaries you cannot see. You are not imagining, you are transmitting. Words spoken in faith are not sound, they are codes. They instruct creation to align with divine harmony. Now declare this truth. Every word of darkness spoken against me finds no resting place. Every evil seed planted in my path dries up. Every door of blessing that was sealed, open now by divine decree. When you pray this way, heaven and earth enter into witness. The salt preserves your declarations, the sand records them. Your covenant becomes a legal testimony in the courts of spirit, a written document in energy that no darkness can contest. Remain still. You may sense a warmth spreading through your chest, or a deep peace descending. Sometimes it is quiet, sometimes like a soft wave moving through your surroundings. That shift is not imagination, it is recognition. The presence of God has settled. The spiritual system has acknowledged your act. Do not rush away. Remain in gratitude. Whisper, "Father, I am covered. My home is covered. My family is covered. My destiny is secured." stay silent for a moment afterward. Let the peace settle into every corner, as if light is finding its resting place in your space. This is the point of transformation, where prayer becomes vibration, and vibration becomes manifestation. From this day forward, strange heaviness will lift. Delays will break. Those who once resisted you will begin to lose their grip without knowing why. You will see it not through struggle, but through effortless shifts, a new call, an open door, a reconciled relationship, a peaceful night's rest. But remember this sacred principle: never claim the glory. What you feel is not your power, it is divine mercy flowing through obedience. Give thanks continually, for gratitude is the magnet that keeps divine favor active. From the moment you complete your declarations, your environment begins to reorganize itself around divine order. Every word you spoke now circulates in the unseen, creating motion, awakening laws that were waiting for your agreement. Heaven heard, the earth recorded, and darkness recognized its defeat. You may not see it instantly, but the shift is irreversible. Faith is not proven by sight, it is proven by rest. When you have done all that is required, do not strive anymore. Let peace be your confirmation. When you wake, give thanks. When you sleep, breathe gratitude. Each time you pass the place where your salt and sand rest, lift your hand gently and whisper, "Light reigns here." That small act reaffirms your covenant and keeps the energy of faith alive. Understand that this mixture is not a weapon of aggression, but a symbol of alignment. It is heaven's reminder that you are not helpless. You are a co-creator with God, entrusted with authority to speak and reshape the unseen. Through this simple act, you are training your spirit to remember its dominion. When you command in purity, creation obeys in precision. You may begin to notice changes that seem subtle but profound. The tension that once filled your rooms will loosen. Arguments that once erupted suddenly lose their fuel. Friends or clients who turned away may begin to return with favor. Opportunities long delayed will suddenly reappear. These are signs of divine justice, order being restored silently, elegantly, without human interference. If you ever sense darkness pressing again, whether through fear, strange dreams, or unease, do not panic. Stand firm and say, "The covenant of light still speaks." Then touch or face the place of your mixture and declare, "The earth remembers my decree, no evil may pass." You will feel peace return, because faith once activated does not expire, it waits to be reawakened by your voice. This is how spiritual authority operates. It is not about endless performance, but about awareness. Awareness that the kingdom of God is within you, that your voice carries creative resonance, and that even matter obeys the spirit of alignment. The salt and sand are not magical relics, they are extensions of your consciousness cooperating with divine intelligence. When you begin to walk in this awareness, life itself becomes a sanctuary. The same protection that surrounds your home will follow you wherever you go. The same peace will saturate your workplace, your travels, even the conversations you enter. For once you are aligned with divine order, everything that touches you is compelled to harmonize with it. And should you ever feel led to share this knowledge, do so with humility. Teach others not the ritual, but the principle. Remind them that the secret is not the elements, but the obedience that sanctifies them. When people learn to use creation in reverence instead of fear, they rediscover how deeply loved they are by the Creator. Because this act, simple, quiet, and hidden, was never about commanding nature. It was about communion. It was about remembering that heaven and earth were always designed to work together through faith. And now, by your obedience, you have restored that union within your own life. And now, as the final step, you are called not to do, but to be. You have spoken, blessed, aligned, and activated. The covenant of salt and sand is now alive, but its true power is not in the act itself. It is in the transformation it awakens within you. You have learned that divine power is not loud, it is not in thunder or spectacle, but in stillness and authority. When you stood with salt and sand, you were not performing a ritual, you were remembering your place in creation. You were stepping into your original design as a co-creator with God, a being of light who commands by purity, not by fear. You were reclaiming dominion not by force, but by resonance, the same resonance that keeps stars in orbit and oceans in rhythm. From now on, walk with awareness. Wherever you go, remember that the earth listens. Every word you speak imprints upon the ground, upon the air, upon the atmosphere around you. Choose words that heal, that bless, that build. Let your tongue become an altar, and your presence become a sanctuary. When you move in this consciousness, you carry the same purity that salt symbolizes and the same testimony that sand holds. You become the covenant itself, living, breathing, enduring. There will be moments when the energy of opposition tries to rise again, sudden discouragements, conflicts, or subtle fears. In those moments, do not reach for the bowl, reach for your awareness. Close your eyes and say quietly, "The light of God surrounds me. The peace of God governs me. The covenant of purity speaks through me." You will feel that same calm return, because the true protection was never in the mixture, it was always in the alignment between your faith and divine order. As you continue this path, encourage others to awaken spiritually. Tell them not about superstition, but about understanding. Let them know that God still speaks through the elements He created, through salt that preserves, through sand that remembers, through water that cleanses, through breath that gives life. The universe is not silent, it hums with divine intelligence, waiting for consciousness to respond. You are now part of that dialogue. You have touched heaven with faith and commanded the earth with love. From this day onward, your home will remain a place of light. Peace will rule your nights, favor will guide your steps, and every shadow that once followed you will dissolve under the weight of divine presence. End this teaching the same way it began, with gratitude. Whisper softly, "Thank you, Father, for revealing the mystery of simple things. Thank you for the covenant of salt and sand, for light that never fails, for peace that passes understanding." Then remain still for a moment. Feel the stillness stretching through time, connecting your breath with eternity. In that silence, something sacred unfolds, the awareness that you and the Creator were never separate. You were always meant to co-govern creation together. From now on, walk with reverence. Let your life itself become the prayer. And whenever you see a grain of salt or a footprint in the sand, remember this truth: the universe is alive, and it remembers those who walk in covenant.